Phi Beta Sigma got soul.
Hello, my name is Donnell Buggs. I'm the Director of Bigger and Better Business for Kappa Upsilon Sigma Chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. As we're celebrating National Black-Owned Business Month, I'm here with a professional who doesn't have her own business. However, she is a professional, and I think it'd be a great opportunity to spotlight her and the great things that she is doing. I'm here today at the Advanced ENT and Allergy Facility located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Along with me is Dr. Erin Toller, and she is an allergist. And today she's going to talk to us a little bit about what she does and the services that she provides. So Dr. Toller, thank you so much for making time out to meet with me today, and welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to jump right into it. I know you have a very busy schedule. Today was a busy day for you. So I'm not going to try to keep you long, but I want to talk a little bit about your area of interest. Statistics show that African-American allergists make up 5.1% of the U.S. population, 5.1. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, tell me a little bit about your background and what actually inspired you to become an allergist.
Well, surprisingly enough, this was not my first choice, but I've always been familiar with it. So I have asthma myself. A couple of people in my family have asthma. My brother has food allergies. So I've been very familiar with it and grew up with it, firsthand for years. And so I think it was always an interest, but I didn't think about going into that professionally. I started doing pediatric residency, and so knew I always wanted to work with children. But when I looked at, I knew I didn't want to do general pediatrics. So then in residency, I would look at, okay, what am I interested in? I really like neonatology, thought I wanted to do developmental pediatrics. And then I took a step back and thought about lifestyle. I didn't want to be in the hospital anymore. Mm-hmm. And allergy has a very nice lifestyle. So I like to go home and keep things at work. I don't typically have to go to the hospital, so that's very nice. So I like the lifestyle, but the main thing that I love about allergy is teaching people. So it keeps me in the rooms a little bit longer. But one of my passions is teaching people about asthma and being able to breathe. I just remember the first time that I felt what it felt like not to breathe. And so I don't want other people to have to experience that. And I don't know how much we have the time, given the way the system is set up, to go into depth about how people are feeling. So I know what people are feeling when they say, I'm short of breath, my chest hurt, whatever. So I take time to really ensure that people's symptoms come through and that I know what they're talking about. But from the pediatric side, I've heard in residency people, oh, my child can't play sports because they have asthma, and I let them know. Their job as a child is to play. Right. And so if they can't breathe, then you need to let me know so we can figure out the right treatment plan. So that has really kept me here and makes me love what I do every day.
Wonderful. Good to know. So it's not more than just a profession. There's some personal reasons also as to why this is such an important field for you. Mm-hmm. Now, as an African-American allergist, what sort of unique challenges and or opportunities would you say you've encountered in your medical field?
So I think from maybe a challenge standpoint, just in terms of how one feels on a day-to-day, there are several occasions where I will walk into a room and I can tell by the look on the patient's face, they are surprised. Some pleasant, some not disappointed, but just surprised. And then you can tell, okay, you didn't look up your physician before you came today.
Right.
But I think what's rewarding is that the people who were not necessarily pleasantly surprised at that moment, I kind of feel as though I can win them over by the end of the visit. And so, but just working through that and realizing that if I wasn't African-American, I might not have that experience or have that feeling after walking into a room. So I don't think that people from all walks of life walk in a room with that on their mind. Right. Whereas we may be able to pick up on that, slight nuance. And, walking into a room with another African-American, oh, I'm so happy. It's so good to see you. So it's different.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can imagine. But it sounds like even though they might not verbalize it, the expression on the face says it all. But you found creative ways to still work through it and still be professional.
Yes.
And by the time you're done with the services, it sounds like you've won a really good connection with the patient.
Yes. So I try to meet people where they are. You know, I hear time and time again, oh, you're such a good listener. You're very detail oriented. And a lot of what I do is not rocket science, but you have to be able to listen to the story to really figure out and tease through, you know, all of the information and figure out what is the issue and how can I best help you. And that also means breaking through some, I don't want to necessarily say barriers, but maybe concerns about treatment plans. And so a lot of what I do has to do with, okay, well, what are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? What are some of your concerns? Can I ease some of those concerns? So I really try to do patient-oriented care. I mean, not that everybody doesn't, but focusing more on that. So that way, because if you're on board with what I'm recommending, you're more likely to do it and you're more likely to feel better. So that way we didn't waste your time. Absolutely.
So just really being intentional, not to take anything away from other, you know, people in the medical field, but you're intentional about making sure that you have that connection.
Yes. The downside to that is that it takes time, which again, the system is not set up for. So because of that, I could run behind. But I think once people meet me, they realize that, you know, the time is very well spent and I try to give everybody the time that they need. So, you know, this visit may be longer than another visit or, you know, so in the end, I feel like it all works out.
Definitely. You know, I did a study one time, not to make this about me, but I remember in undergrad doing a study about patient satisfaction. And one of the things that I learned is that doctors do not spend enough time with their patients. So even though I hear a downside, there's also a positive that comes because patients want to feel like you're taking the time to meet with them, address their needs, educate them, and not just, you know, talking to them for about 2 minutes and then sending them off. You know, so for the fact that you are able to take that time out with your patients, I know means a lot to their patients. That's awesome. Allergies can have a significant impact on a person's quality of life. How do you approach building rapport and understanding with your diverse range of patients?
So I think I would probably say more so, again, kind of going back to meeting them where they are. So, you know, how does this food allergy may impact you differently than someone else, especially from a cultural standpoint. You know, certain backgrounds, tree nuts are a very large part of their diet. And do you feel alienated because of that? With kids going to school, you know, not being able to sit at a table with all your friends who are eating foods that you're allergic to. So trying to hone in on, okay, we know that these could be barriers for how you feel. And addressing that kind of head on and seeing, you know, how can we make this better? How can we make you, because it's hard enough to live with the allergy. But allergy is such a large umbrella of diagnoses. So you know, food allergies are just one of them. Thankfully, from an environmental standpoint, pretty much everybody knows what you're talking about if you're saying, oh, my hay fever, my allergies are acting up. But the food allergies, I think, is really where the majority of it comes in. And then probably asthma being the other aspect. In terms of feeling different from other people and not being able to maybe do everything you can do. So really just trying to figure out what bothers you about what's going on and trying to address that.
Excellent. Could you share a memorable patient success story that highlights the positive impact of your care and expertise?
So there's a woman I met recently, I think maybe upper 50s, low 60s, who has bad asthma and has been to a number of different physicians, been on many different medications, and they weren't working. And so I had to go through, okay, well, did you try this inhaler? Did you try this inhaler? Did this work? Did this work? And really finding out that she didn't tolerate them. Several different reasons why different ones weren't tolerated. She is not someone that would necessarily be a candidate for an injectable medication, but she tried everything else. So, and nobody wants to be on steroids all the time. That comes with a lot of other side effects. So I recommended trying this injection and she feels like a new person. I called and said, okay, well, how are you doing? Because we're going to have some issues getting it covered because this is not, you know, conventional therapy. And she said, I feel wonderful. I can't remember last time I couldn't breathe. I forgot I had asthma. I forgot I need to come in for this injection. It's an every 2-week injection, by the way. So you would think one would remember, but that's how good she feels. So she really feels like she's gotten her life back. from my standpoint, needing to prove to an insurance company that you deserve this medication and we've exhausted all other possibilities and the only other alternative is steroids is not good enough. But that takes a lot of time on my part. And unfortunately, I think in the day and age that we're at, insurance companies are trying to save money too. So they like to say no quite easily.
Right.
And this is not your typical patient. Like I said, this is not conventional next step in therapy for her. But she tried everything else. And I think sometimes the system wants to try to save that money by saying no over and over again. And that causes physician fatigue. And so I don't feel like getting on the phone and talking to an insurance company and advocating for my patient. But I do it if I know that means you're going to be able to breathe. So, taking the extra effort, figuring out what she was comfortable with, what she wasn't comfortable with, and just being persistent with the system to try to make it work in her favor. So far, so good. She's on samples. So thank goodness for samples.
Okay.
But there's still some work to be done to try to get her this medication long term. But she feels much better.
Wow. So the fact that you shows you demonstrating your level of commitment.
Yes.
And that this is not just a job for you.
No, and at the end of the day, I tell people that's what I want somebody to do for me.
Right.
Because they thank you so much. Like, no, like I feel like this is what everyone should be doing. Treat other people the way you want to be treated.
The way you want to be treated. Absolutely. That's amazing. Allergy research and treatments are continuously evolving, as we both know. How do you stay updated with the latest advancements and ensure your patients benefit from cutting edge knowledge?
Conferences is the easiest way. Because I feel like reading on a day-to-day basis is difficult. I have 2 young children, 5 and 1.5.
Awesome.
So I'm very busy when I go home. But conferences definitely help. So there's large allergy conferences. We have more smaller scale conferences. So ones that are more local, easier to get to, that kind of thing. So and then we have reps that come in and let us know, okay, well, this medicine just got approved for this. And so I feel like I'm able to stay up to date that way. And then, of course, looking up stuff as I need to. But that's the easiest way.
Excellent. Staying current, staying updated is really important to patient care, right? Now, another matter that's important is representation, especially in healthcare. How do you think your background contributes to a more inclusive and patient-centered approach in your practice?
I think based on, for our community, it first starts with what you see. So I think that people tend to be more comfortable when the physician looks like them. So, and then I think also with area. So I grew up Bucks County. And so sometimes I talk a lot about that. Okay, where are you from? Find some commonalities with patients. And then trying to see, okay, well, did you travel around? I did my undergrad training in Cleveland, Ohio, and did my pediatrics training in Florida, and then came back home, which I didn't think was going to happen. But it worked out very well. But, just trying to have connections with people. But I think for our community, we are more likely to trust what we hear the physician saying when they look like us. We have a more sense of security that they understand what we're going through, and maybe what we've gone through that has not been said, and different barriers from that aspect. And I think from that, and regardless of how the person looks, I have heard some crazy things that physicians have said to people. And that's not just our community, that's everybody. So I think that also with the relationships that I'm able to form with patients, it makes people feel more comfortable to tell me stuff like that. But I think all of that just helps with their care, because if you feel more comfortable to tell me what's going on, then you're more likely to tell me the truth. And because I always tell her, you're not going to be in trouble if you didn't take something I recommended.
Right.
Let's get to why, and okay, well, what might work better for you? So whereas I know when some people go places, it's they're almost made to feel judged, and I didn't take this. Why I told you to do this. So it really should be more of a kind of like you said, patient centered. So that way we can be on the same page.
Absolutely. What would you say is one of the craziest things you've heard a patient tell you from another professional?
It was just last week, which topped the list for me.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Oh man, I'm really blanking.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess my second one was basically where they had come in the room and had kind of just bashed their weight.
Okay.
It was somebody who needed surgery, and just head on said, well, you must not be working out or eating correctly because you're the same weight you were the last time I saw you, and just didn't ask any questions about were there any barriers to the recommendations that were given, is there a reason you couldn't do X, Y, and Z, and then just left. So it sounded like it was a very quick appointment. And then she had told me, well, I couldn't do the necessary exercises because of pain I was having. Gotcha. And that was just one of the reasons. I'm thinking you don't know somebody's background in terms of, all you saw was a number.
That's right.
And when you don't have these conversations, you can find, oh, well, that makes sense for why you couldn't do what I recommended. So
that's right. But
I just can't believe that people say these things to patients.
Absolutely. You'd be surprised that the numbers are probably high. And you're right. We don't take into consideration that there may be other factors, thyroid issues, maybe there's medication that have caused weight gain, steroids, etc. So that's unfortunate to hear, but it's also fortunate to know that there are physicians like yourself who actually take time to care about their patients and show that care and that level of sensitivity. I think that's really important. Now, allergies can often interact with other health conditions. How do you collaborate with other medical professionals to provide comprehensive care for your patients?
So there's a lot of overlap with GI, with dermatology. Those are probably the two biggest ones. Okay. So I have and ENT. Although now we have ENT in-house. Okay. But so that is a bit of a easier collaboration. But dermatology, I have some go-to dermatology groups and physicians that I work closely with. We have a lot of mutual patients. So I may call, give a heads up, this is what's going on. Can you see them? Thankfully, our rapport is pretty good such that, okay, yeah, I can get the patient in, quickly, because dermatology really can be difficult to get into. The wait can be pretty long. I don't have a go-to GI yet. Okay. So hopefully I can get one. But there is a good amount of overlap there. And even if the overlap is more so things that we need to look out for because it can show up as a GI issue. And definitely the ENT, but thankfully that's in-house, so that's much easier. But but we always send our notes automatically so they can see what's going on. But sometimes it's necessary to reach out and give some more information.
Wonderful to hear. Can you discuss your approach to patient education? How do you empower your patients to manage their allergies and make informed decisions about their health?
I think the first way is educating them as much as I can, because I think sometimes if you don't understand what's going on, it's harder for you to make that informed. Well, keyword in the phrase is informed decision. So you have to understand what's going on first, and then when you're presented with options, well, what's the difference between these options? So kind of working through each of those. I also will let people know upfront. A lot of times there's a cost barrier to some of these therapies. The inhalers are kind of off the charts right now in terms of cost. Epinephrine can be expensive. I just had somebody the other day call and say they needed an alternative because it was too expensive. So, which there really isn't an alternative, but so that's the first part. And then seeing, okay, this is what I would recommend. Because a lot of times at that point, somebody's like, okay, well, what would you do? So I usually will have a go-to plan. I let people know up front if I could really go either way on this, whatever you feel more comfortable. But here's some options. I think we should do X, Y, and Z. And I explain why, and then, see if they're on board with that. I let people know about side effects of medications, whether that's taste or, other symptoms. To see if that may play a role in them potentially wanting to choose something different. So, just really kind of giving as much information. Now, I think on the flip side, sometimes that's an issue because not everybody wants all that information. Okay. So I'm really trying to read body language to figure out, okay, am I giving you too much? I think one of my downfalls is that I can talk too much or talk too fast because, again, system not set up for taking this time. So I can talk fast. So I'm trying to make sure I don't lose people either.
Yeah.
So it's just really difficult trying to find that balance, but giving the information so it truly can be an informed decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing. I think that the more information that a person has, the better they feel more empowered, to be able to make a decision that they feel is best for them.
Right.
I think sometimes what happens is that, we trust our physicians to know what's best, but we know our bodies better than the physicians do. And so to allow opportunities for the patient to be able to also have information to determine what they feel is best for them, I think is a very great approach. And again, it goes back to the patient-centered approach. Right? Amazing. Allergies can affect people of all ages. How do you adapt your communication and treatment strategies when working with pediatric patients versus adult patients?
So that's pretty easy for me, just because I did pediatrics first. So depending upon the age, if they're say teen or, young teen, I will always address them as well. Because it's their visit, they're the patient. So I try to ask them questions as much as I can. Now some prefer not to talk, but I try to engage them as much as possible. I will find sometimes the parents are pleasantly surprised that I will look at them before I leave the room. Okay, do you have any questions? Because they should be a part of this too. And at some point, they're going to be in charge of their healthcare and taking their medications on their own. So I try to include them as much as possible. The little babies, that's super easy for me because again, I'm used to it. But yeah, just really trying to include them because just because they're younger doesn't mean that they're not capable. So, or that they don't understand. And so I think it needs to be broken down to them so they can understand the severity or the seriousness of what's going on. I also like to make people laugh, so that can make them feel more at ease too. But yeah, so thankfully that's not too difficult.
Difficult for you. Wow. Can you share some insights into any ongoing community outreach or initiatives you're involved in to raise awareness about allergies and promote health in marginalized communities?
So not as much as I would like to. I signed up to be I forget what the position was called, asthma advocate, I think. But the way the program was presented was such that you made the program, initiated it, and I was like, oh, okay, wait, I didn't realize it was all of that. I don't know that I have enough time for that. Again, 2 small children. But at a recent conference I was at, I was talking to the woman that is a part of that program. It's a much larger program, but and I let her know that was a barrier for me, and she said, "Oh my goodness, okay, I'm so glad you told me." So she said she would be reaching out for different, fairs that are in the area, that kind of stuff, because that's the kind of stuff I love. To just another place to reach more people, to give the education necessary about really probably more so asthma in terms of our community, but to talk about food allergies and that kind of thing. Also, a lot of what we do, because technically our position is called allergist immunologist. So there is a side of, recurrent infections. Typically, we deal with things from the chest up in terms of infections, but there can be overlap with allergy because if your allergies aren't controlled, it puts you more at risk for sinus infections. But so yes, saying all that to say, I would like to do more community outreach things. I think it's just a matter of planning and meeting up with the right people. But so I would like to do more.
Okay, great. Wonderful. And I'm pretty sure at some point in time, that avenue will still be available to explore that. The community would definitely love to have someone like you to just speak on these things. I'm learning a lot just talking with you for this short period of time. And I can see how beneficial this would really be just to be able to maybe go to, one of the fairs or some of the community activities and share some of the knowledge that you have. What advice would you give to aspiring African-American doctors who are considering a career in allergy medicine or the medical field in general?
That if that is what you want to do, don't let anybody tell you not to. I remember when I did my walkthrough for an interview for medical school and seeing all these people who had made it already. Like you're sitting there, you're just taking a break from class. And they knew who we were because everybody had their suits on. And they're looking at us saying, oh, don't do it. I'm like, why would you say don't do it? it takes a lot to even get to this point to have the interview. Why would you say that? And just thinking, aren't you happy that you're here? Isn't this what you wanted to do? So you just have to be foolproof sure that this is what you want. It is not a cakewalk. But if it's what you want, then don't let anybody tell you that you can't. There have been a lot of barriers along my way, and I am a strong believer everything happens for a reason, and I would not have met the people or have the people in my life that I have if those barriers weren't there. I had to learn things from those barriers, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. So if that's what you want to do, find the right people to help you get to that point. And just keep trying, because if it's meant for you, it will be for you, but there may be hurdles you have to jump over first.
Sure. Great words of advice, great wisdom, not allowing anybody to deter you or discourage you from going after what you really want to do in life. And it's not just the medical field, but in any field, that you have to stay strong, stay encouraged, not listen to the naysayers, and go after what you really, really want, what's in your heart to do. So it's great advice. Dr. Toller, last but not least, because you talked a little bit about being, you have a family, you mentioned physician fatigue. How do you balance the demands of a medical career with self-care and well-being? Like, what strategies would you say you use to maintain a healthy balance, work-life balance?
Well, I could be better.
Okay.
I could always be better.
Okay.
But I think one outlet for me is my kids. I go home. I don't open anything typically during the week. I'm trying to get that balance better, but playing with my kids, great outlet. My family is very close. So, talking to them throughout the week, seeing them, a couple times a month, and just having time to, go outside. And one of my very close friends, we always talk about, actually looking and feeling, experiencing nature, and just being present, because things are so quick. But not to mention, I make time to get my hair done and go get my nails done, but I'm a little behind on that.
Okay.
But just trying to do things that make you feel good, so that you can help to try to make other people feel good as much as you can. So, I could always be better. Awesome.
But I hear just staying close with family, taking care of yourself, treat yourself from time to time. There's some room for growth, but I think we all can do better with self-care, you know, so you're not alone.
It's a point piece not to forget.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the great pieces of information that you shared, nuggets of wisdom that you shared. If someone wanted to get in contact with you, how can they find you?
So from like an appointment standpoint, you mean? So we have a website, which I probably should be able to quote, but through Allergy, Advanced ENT and Allergy, on our website, we have the different phone numbers for our offices. I personally practice in Pennsylvania, Northeast Philadelphia, 2 days a week. And then I'm also in Jersey the other 3 days. So I practice out of Voorhees on Tuesdays. I'm in Haddonfield on Thursdays and Mount Laurel on Fridays. So any of those offices, Philadelphia as well. Philadelphia, I would look it up more of allergy and asthma care, because we're in the process of finalizing some things. But yeah, I can be reached that way.
Wonderful.
And I go by Dr. Toller typically. If you look me up, it's Toller Artist, but professionally, I wanted to go by Dr. Toller. So.
Absolutely. Just listening to everything that you shared, Dr. Toller, is not a surprise to me that, and one of the things that I did not mention earlier during the introduction was that, Dr. Toller has earned the top doc for kids recognition, along with being voted top doc by patients, both in the South Jersey Magazine. Not only that, is she a great physician, but she's also an active member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, one of the first African-American sororities here in the United States. Do you stay in contact with your sorors, or are you, still doing?
Yes. So I'm a part of Rho Theta Omega in Philadelphia. So yes, I still attend meetings and active with different projects when I can, because again, 2 young kids.
Right.
But yes, and so we definitely in contact and trying to help out where I can.
That's amazing. Go AKAs. Thank you so much, for, Dr. Tola, for your time.
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. I enjoyed myself. Please look her up. You can find her on a website. She's located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Advanced ENT and allergies. She's also in different locations, as she's already mentioned. If you have any questions, please look her up on the website. You can also find this interview on www.pbskus.net. And you can also learn more about allergists and the different things that they're offering and doing. Thank you so much for your time. Be blessed.